Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is a regular board meeting for the Cedar Rapids Community School District Board of Education. Today is Monday, May 12th. We've got a packed agenda, so we like to see a packed house, so thank you all for showing up. We've got a lot of good things to celebrate tonight. Before we start our formal meeting, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the revised agenda. The agenda is revised because of our personnel report and the Piper-Jaffray agreement. Keith?
I move that the revised agenda of Monday, May 12, 2014 Board of Education meeting be approved as set forth and that each item is considered ready for discussion and/or action.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All action?
Director Anhalt.
Aye.
Director Witt. Aye. Director Westerkamp.
Aye.
President Meisterling.
Aye. Next, I'm going to turn this over to Jill Cervella to recognize employees for 25, 30, 35, 40, and 45 years of service. So, board members, I'm going to ask if you could please stand in front of our dais.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce you to employees of the district who have served its students for 25, 30, 35, and even 40 years. These employees bring a wealth of history and experience to our district, and our students are the recipients of their talent. In order to give some perspective in terms of how long these valuable employees have been with the district, I've done a bit of research, and I'll tell you a little bit about what was going on in the world when they started their careers here. I will be reading the names of those who are here and also those who were not able to attend tonight, maybe some because of the weather. Okay, so we will begin with those who have been here for 25 years. I can tell you that when these employees began their employment with the Cedar Rapids Community School District, they only paid 97 cents for a gallon of gasoline, and George Bush Sr. had just become the President of the United States. I give you Karen Jones, Transportation. Susie Kettleson, Department Manager, Food and Nutrition. Nancy Rao, Garfield Elementary. Rhoda Shepard, Director of Student Services. In addition to these employees, Deborah Ehlers of Arthur, Susan Anderson, Garfield, Christine Bauer, Kenwood, Teresa Brimmer, St. Luke's Site, Harrison, Cecilia Carey, Grant, Catherine D'Amico, Jackson, Lisa Foley, Arthur, Wendy Fries, Taft, Al Fritz, Jackson, Mary Gibney, Kennedy, Linda Halser, Kennedy, Diane Hunt, Nixon, Carmen Larson, Viola Gibson, Melody Lodge, Coolidge, Linda Meeks, Hiawatha, Denise Melchert, Harding, Rhonda Michaels, Harding, Marcia Miller, McKinley, Deanne Angie, Wilson, Denise Pape, Cleveland, William Pickney, Washington, and Melinda Wilcox, Metro. The next employees I'll be introducing have 30 years of service, and I can tell you that 30 years ago, the Space Shuttle Discovery made its maiden voyage when you started, and the first ever flight in space by a human untethered using jet backpacks took place. And you began your employment, Patricia Rooney, Coolidge Elementary. In addition to Patricia for Coolidge Elementary is Elaine Bangs, Jefferson, David Bird, Taylor, William Campbell, Transportation, Ellen Hakes, Kenwood, Ginger Larson, Harrison, Nina O'Neill, McKinley, Deborah Post, McKinley, David Smith, Washington, and Gary Sezkowski, Harrison. Our next employees have 35 years of service. I can tell you that these employees when they started with our district, only paid 86 cents for a gallon of gasoline, and were probably watching Happy Days on TV or playing Trivial Pursuit, which was introduced that year. But David Carney also began his career with the Cedar Rapids School District. Christine McGuire, Business Services. Randy Necker, Harding Middle School. Janet Verbeek, 35 years, building engineer. And Denise Warnock, Coolidge Elementary. We have one employee who made the 40-year milestone this year who was not able to attend tonight. Dan Ryan of Washington began his career when gas was 55 cents a gallon and the Sears Tower was the world's largest or tallest building. We thank all of these employees for the lives that they've touched over their years and for their service to the district.
Thanks for the training. Congratulations to each of our district employees celebrating a milestone. It's a great opportunity to recognize all of our staff. You're a fine group of individuals, and I know that you represent an outstanding group of faculty and staff across the district. So thanks again for your work. I want to take this opportunity to thank our Board of Education. Members of the board are dedicated individuals who commit to improving student learning, and I keep looking at the monitor because there should be a video. There we go.
As citizen leaders, school board members establish a vision for the education program, ensure schools are accountable to the community, and strongly advocate continuous improvement in student learning. Board members volunteer thousands of hours each year. The job entails an endless string of meetings and school functions to attend, reams of reports, agendas, proposals, and other information to read and study, and a host of decisions to make. All of this is toward their shared goal, helping students achieve. In recognition of their dedicated service, we say thanks to the members of our Cedar Rapids Community School District Board of Education. Gary Anhalt has served as a member of the Board of Education since 2009. A retired district teacher, he is a member of the Cedar Rapids Area Retired Education Personnel Organization, the Cedar Rapids Recreation Commission, and a retired member of the Iowa School Employees Association. Nancy Humbles was first elected to the Board of Education in 2009 and has served as Vice President. Nancy is the Director of the Center for Diversity and Enrichment at the University of Iowa, where she is an executive member of the Iowa African American Council. She is also a member of the American Association of Blacks in Higher Education, the Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church Finance Committee, and the District Diversity Committee. John Laverty has served as a member of the Board of Education since 2007. During his tenure, he has served as both President and Vice President of the Board. He is the Senior Associate Director of Outreach and Recruitment in the Admissions Office of the University of Iowa. John is a member of both the Iowa and National Associations of School Boards, the Iowa and National Associations for College Admission Counseling, and the Washington High School PTA. Mary Meisterling was first elected to the Board of Education in 2002. She currently serves as Board President and has also held the office of Vice President. Mary is a project manager at Alliant Energy. She is a board member with Grantwood AEA, the Marion and Hiawatha Economic Development Corporations, the Southside Investment Board, Economic Development Innovation Council, Medical SMID Board, Blue Zones Advisory Committee, and HYPE Coalition. Ann Rosenthal has served on the Board of Education since 1999. During her tenure, she has held the position of Board Vice President. Ann is the Associate Director of Facilities Management in Buildings and Landscape Services at the University of Iowa. She is a past president of the Cedar Valley chapter of the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers, a member of the Association of Higher Ed Facilities Officers, and the Washington High School PTA. Keith Westerkamp was elected to the board in 1997. He has served as president and vice president and is a member of the Iowa Association of School Boards Board of Directors. Keith is the owner and president of the Appraisal Associates Company. He is a member of the Iowa State University Alumni Association and Alumni Admissions Council, a former adjunct professor at the University of Iowa, past president of the Iowa Appraisal Institute, and a member of the Cedar Rapids Board of Realtors, the UI Old Capitol Club, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Alan Witt has served on the board since 2011 and is currently vice president. Alan is the managing principal at Hall & Hall Engineers Incorporated and a faculty member at Kirkwood Community College. He is a member of the University of Iowa CEE Advisory Board, Kirkwood Faculty Association and Advisory Committees, Greater Cedar Rapids Area Home Builders Association, Greater Iowa City Area Home Builders Association, and the Rotary Club of Cedar Rapids. He is a past chair of the Cedar Rapids Planning Commission and Chamber of Commerce, a member of the Long-Term Planning Commission, and Leadership Iowa. He is also actively involved with the Project Lead the Way program.
All right, very good. As elected leaders, you represent the district's, the community's commitment to education. Too often such dedicated public service goes unnoticed. So at this time, I would be pleased to lead the Executive Council through, and congratulations to our board members. Executive Council, please join me.
No, I like it like that. Don't complain. Take your coat off.
Well, there's certainly a
Wise old owl right there.
there's certainly a lot of dedicated community service represented by our Board of Education, and we appreciate their service to the district and the district's students.
So next we'll go to superintendent reports and board reports, and thank you for that recognition. We do appreciate it. We enjoy our service on the board. We think it's very important work in supporting K-12 public education. We know that all of you do as well, so thank you. I think the district is a team, and we all work together to make sure our students are successful.
Outstanding. I'm now pleased to ask Val Dozal to introduce our student guests this evening and for a demonstration of how the Canvas system is supporting learning and communications.
Your mic's not on.
Try it again.
No, you gotta go to the podium, because that mic is gonna interfere with his mic.
Okay, it is my pleasure to introduce Bridget Castelluso. Pretty close. Not very close, though. Mrs. C, thank you. And Bridget is here from Jackson Elementary. She has been working on the iPad project for 2 years now, and she has brought a student with her, Alex. I'll let her do an introduction of him. The exciting thing you're going to see is actually the use of the iPad, as well as how they've used Canvas, which is a tool that we're using a lot in the high school, to gain parent information, student information, and how both Bridget and her students communicate with each other. So thank you, Bridget.
Well, thank you. As Val said, this is my second year doing the one-to-one iPad pilot that was funded through the grant, and we've had some fun, haven't we, Alex? Mm-hmm. We have. And so instead of me doing a lot of talking, which I could about how much I love the iPad technology in the hands of students each and every day, Alex and I thought it would be best we just demonstrate some of the things that we do each and every day. And I think it's really important for the board and everyone to know that, well, Alex, what do you think? Do we use the iPad as much as a pencil each day?
Yes.
Do we use it as much as we would paper?
Yes.
Are we saving trees when we use our iPads instead of paper?
Yes.
And do we think it's a good learning tool?
Yes.
Yes, we do. So should we show them what we got?
Yes.
Awesome. So some of the things that we're going to demonstrate are just the various ways we use the iPad technology in all sorts of subject areas. So the first one is in an app called Notability. Alex is going to show you something we did when we were studying the Pilgrims in our history. And he'll be quite savvy and just select things. So Alex, why don't you tell them about what we did here. This is normally something that I would make copies, and the students would do just paper, pencil, and crayons.
In this, we made a pilgrim with the pilgrims, and then we write facts about the pilgrims and how they lived a long time ago.
And you'll see the little red squiggly lines. I do take off the spell check so that we have to use our personal best spelling, don't I? Mm-hmm. You like that part?
No.
I didn't think so. He's honest. That's why I chose him. So that's just an example of one way we've used Notability. We'll show you another way in just a little bit with Canvas. The next, we've been working on Magic Treehouse Fiction Adventures. So Alex is going to bring up an app called My Story.
Oh, read story.
And so after doing some small group reading with Magic Treehouse series, each of the students wrote a fictional narrative with a problem solution. And so Alex, do you want to go back and tell them your title?
Minecraft past midnight.
He's a little bit of a Minecraft fan. And he did all of the illustrations, the typing, and he even added his voice to record the story. So Alex, do you want to pick one of your pages that you like best to share?
This is not working.
Okay. So the sound isn't working. Oh, that's right, because we thought it would be hooked up a little bit differently. So you can just read the page that you like best in your microphone.
Jack opened the book and read, "First, in Minecraft, you have to get wood. Hit a trunk to collect the wood."
So we've also video recorded our sound of our voices, and then we're also going to do some sound effects as well. Okay, do you want to? So that's something that we've done both with reading and writing. Oh, he's quick. Phew, that's a 5-finger pinch, isn't it, Alex? We know that. We've done several research projects, and in order to do that, I have created several iBooks for the students through an app called Creative Book Builder. And in Alex's library, in his iBooks library, we have a couple of them. And he's going to share the endangered animals. We've been studying endangered animals. And through this book, each of the students have this on their iPad. I have audio taped my voice, so the book will read it to them, so they can reread it as they want. There are videos embedded in. He's going to share just a snip of his favorite video, One More Generation, and then show how he can go to research sites. I don't know if this sounds like. It could be too. Your sound might not be. Go ahead, see if you can play it too. We're good problem solvers with iPads each and every day too. Oh, volume was down. Okay. Tell what the video is teaching.
The video is teaching you that once we end an animal species, then it's gone forever.
So that was our big purpose, was how can we make a difference in the world of animals? So this was one of the videos that the children began to watch to see how they could make a difference.
We are a non-profit organization
And
dedicated to the preservation of endangered.
And this was an organization that was created by children in the United States. So it was really exciting for the kids to see that. Do you want to go back to your iBook and show them how you got to your research? Do you want to flip to the pages? So then embedded into the iBook too is how Alex was able to find, I think it's the other way, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's this one.
He could directly link out. Alex, what was your endangered animal that you were researching?
An orca.
An orca whale. So, and then he could jump out to the Kids Planet website. Do you want to show him that? And so right from there, then the students could access their animals. And I don't think you got it. Tap
Yeah,
it
it's
again?
right there.
I know, but do you want to tap it? There it goes. And so from that, they took notes and created, they're right now creating a Microsoft Word document with embedded pictures of the facts that they took from that. So usually we'd have to go to computer lab 1 time a week. It would take us a long time. But we did it every day, didn't we? Awesome. Then next we show them the Canvas stuff. So Canvas, yes, I have a high schooler. So I'm a parent of a Canvas student, and so I'm always telling my second graders, yeah, we're doing just like the high schoolers do, except maybe more. So, and they say, we know. We're pretty smart, aren't we? So Alex is going to show you in his social studies theme folder an assignment that he did. Oh, I think you're in science. You're in science. We've done some science things too.
No,
we
that's science.
Social studies. You went to announcements. There you go. So we did a biography PowerPoint. And go ahead and hit submission. Tell them about the comment.
My teacher, Mrs. C, said, I love the legacy side. It shows that you know how important this work was. This was to our world and the way we communicate.
And after you see Alex's PowerPoint, you'll know why I made that comment. Alex, open your PowerPoint and tell everyone who you researched. So you go ahead and tap that. And brag about your score.
4 out of 4.
That's an A+ in second grade. So who was your person, and tell a little bit about him.
Alexander Graham Bell. He invented the telephone.
So we did slides on early life, so they used traditional books, and then we also had an iBook with biography websites, and then he did some important events. And this part he had done in computer lab, right? Mm-hmm. And then tell him how easy it was to convert this into the Canvas in the computer lab.
Well, you just have to go to canvas.com and then you submit your work.
And then we were done in like 2 seconds, weren't we?
Yep.
All right, you better show them the legacy slide so they can see my favorite.
Legacy. Alexander Graham Bell was famous because he invented the telephone and made a new way to communicate.
Okay, so that was a really exciting thing to be able to comment. Next time I'm going to try adding my voice so they can listen to my voice comment as well. And then let's show them what we did just today. So 5-finger pinch out and go into reading, writing. So today in Canvas, I wanted them to have a worksheet, and on folktales, we're going to compare and contrast folktales. So if you go into reading, writing folder. And so I embedded it into the files. So show them how we did the action arrow. So when it was up in the compare contrast, Alex, we're going to open it again, okay? So can you show them through the steps of how we'd open that to be able to do it in Notability?
Mm-hmm. So there would be like this thing up there.
Tap it first.
And then you click that. And you can open it in Notability, in Nearpod, a bunch of things. We opened it in Notability because we can't, well,
You can still show them how we create a new note, and then we'll show you.
you just click Create a New Note. And then you have this.
So let's go into your library and show them how we filled that
The one
up.
that I already had.
Yep. So yours will be the first one. Nope, that's the one we just did.
So, so we did head, body, legs. It was a table something.
Folktale.
Folktale. You can put like a bunch of different stories. You can do then title, characters, beginning, end, and moral, since it's a famous folk.
Always tell something. And so then, Alex, can you just demonstrate how you did a text box? So if we'd have a new one. Mm-hmm.
And then text box, and then text box.
Okay. So that was something that we just started today. So each day as we read a new folktale, we will be adding more information to that, won't we?
Yep.
Okay. What else do you want to tell them about the iPads? You got a big audience. They can't wait to hear. We've talked about it. If you had a dream about iPads, what would it be?
That the district gave us a lot of money so we could buy a bunch of iPads for my entire school.
Do we think that technology is a good way to learn?
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to tell the board members or anyone else in the audience about it? Anything else?
I don't know, not really. I don't got anything.
So that's a little bit. If you have any questions for Alex or myself, we think technology is a really great learning tool. Do you think it's enhanced and made our learning easier?
Yes.
So we use lots of apps. You can see as he scrolls along his iPad, a lot of apps for differentiation. We use it in math all the time. Well, I don't have a QR code. He really wants to do Crafter, which is scanning a QR code, but we really don't have does anybody have a QR code on you? Probably not, maybe. But we do that as well. We access a lot of videos and other work through QR codes. Oh, and then we've done, we're not going to show him that, though. Okay. He'd like to really show you about everything on the iPad. If you have a little extra time after the meeting, we could set up another appointment. Or you're welcome to come visit us at Jackson in 2nd grade. We could show off a few things, couldn't we?
Yep.
Yep, good.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us tonight. We appreciate that. And just so everybody in the audience knows, we have many iPad one-to-one initiatives across the district, and I think we're going to hear some more about that. Now I'm pleased to welcome Kennedy High School Principal Jason Klein to tell us about a recent gift made to the high school by Medal of Honor recipient and Kennedy High School graduate Sal Junta.
Thank you, Dr. Benson. On April 28th, we had our senior recognition night, and Sal, who is a Kennedy graduate from 2003, came by to award his annual scholarship that he gives to a Kennedy student every year, and he also brought another special gift for us. This display includes the actual ribbon that held the medal that President Obama put on Sal's neck and his beret. And he gave this to Kennedy to display for a year, and we're very, very proud to display this out front, right in front of our media center in our service trophy case, as we call it, where we highlight the service that the students and alumni have performed at Kennedy. And so the community can take a look at it as they walk out the door today. We'll have it out front. We very much appreciate Sal's service to our country, and we're very proud of Sal as a graduate from Kennedy.
Great. And Alex, you want to be sure to look at that on your way out. You won't see very many of those have the opportunity to be that close to any. Thanks again. I'm happy to share that the 2014 Bellin Blank Center at the University of Iowa list of top 50 advanced placement high schools in Iowa ranks Cedar Rapids, Washington in the top spot, with Cedar Rapids Kennedy in second, and Cedar Rapids Jefferson ranks 11th, which is a 13 position improvement for Cedar Rapids Jefferson for this year. Washington has been number one on the list for 6 consecutive years, and our 3 comprehensive high schools offer 25 AP courses, including 6 in social sciences, 5 in science, 4 in world language, 3 in mathematics and computer science, 2 in language arts, as well as courses in art and music. I want to thank the district employees who participated in the United Way's Day of Caring event on May 8th and 9th. Working individually and in teams and large groups, several of our employees shared their time and talents to make the community a better place through their hands-on volunteering. Congratulations to the Iowa Big student Mackenzie Farmer on the success of her Success to the Power of She conference held May 9th. Some 150 students and adults participated in the sold-out event at the Cedar Rapids Public Library. Keynote speakers included Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds and University of Iowa women's basketball coach Lisa Bueller. I had the privilege of standing in the back and participating in some of the event and watching it. It was truly a great event to think that we have a student who would pull that together. We look forward to many more of these kinds of authentic and genuine learning opportunities. And that's good transition into the district is planning on a big event, that's BIG capital, for Wednesday, May 21st. The big partner launch will be to celebrate school districts and organizations that have come together to support the Iowa Big program. The ribbon cutting and program will be held at 4 p.m. at the New Bow City Market in Cedar Rapids. There will also be an opportunity for community members and interested students to visit with Big teachers and staff members. Iowa Big program allows high school students to expand their learning opportunities outside the traditional classroom for part of their school day. The innovative program is intended to provide more options for students and families and to engage the community in the educational enterprise. The week of May 5th was both Teacher Appreciation Week and School Nurse Appreciation Week. We thank all of these dedicated employees on behalf of our students and communities. We have just seen a little bit tonight of the talent and the capabilities of our faculty and staff, and we do so appreciate their work.
We do. Thank you very much. Board reports. Anyone have anything they'd like to share with the board? Alan?
Just one, we met with Kirkwood down on their campus. It was Mary and Dave and I had lunch with Carol, Jim, and Mick Starcevich, Carol being the trustees chair. And the purpose of the meeting was to continue the dialogue, which we had earlier in January. And we're trying to just share what's going on with our district and what's going on with Kirkwood, and talk about schedules, alignments of curriculum, and all those sorts of things that are on the table. And it was a very productive meeting, and the plan going forward is to have both the trustees board and our board meet again for a dinner. So we're going to continue that dialogue.
Thank you. I participated in a walking bus pilot program this morning over at Harrison, and I wondered if any other board members had that opportunity. So we're doing that in conjunction with Blue Zones, and we probably had about 12 kids and walked a mile to school, and it was very enjoyable. So if you get a call, I hope you can participate. I know there are a couple more schools coming up. Any other board reports or comments? Seeing none, we will go ahead to communications, delegations, and petitions. And just to remind everyone to come up and address the board, you do have 5 minutes, state your name and address. And we will not comment, but we will certainly receive your comments. Sue Clapp.
Sue Clapp, 2242 Evergreen Street Northeast in Cedar Rapids. Each year, the Cedar Rapids Education Association and the East Central Association, in conjunction with Farmers State Bank, hosts the Lynn County Educator of the Year reception. This year, we were able to recognize several outstanding educators and wonderful supporters of students in Lynn County. First, we recognize Cedar Rapids Community Schools' 6 newly National Board certified teachers: Roxanne Dittmer, Jessica Mooberry, Abby Petchy, Cassidy Reinken, Jillian Schulte, and Nicole Shaw. Our Friend of Education Award was presented to the Kids on Course team that supports students at Van Buren and Harrison. Their programs have enriched students academically, but also by providing experiences in extracurricular activities that they might not have had the opportunity to participate in without Kids on Course providing some of the funding or bringing the programs into the schools. I've had firsthand experience with this year as my niece, who's a college junior, was hired to provide violin lessons to a small group of students at Van Buren. She had a blast. The Kids on Course is funded by the Zach Johnson Foundation. We also present an H.O. Maxey Award to a person who volunteers numerous hours to support children and education. H.O. Maxey was a former teacher for Cedar Rapids and always was said to have a big heart looking out for all children. This year, the award went to Kathy Ulrich. Kathy dedicates so much of her time lobbying for education, supporting students in need, and advocating for schools any chance she gets. H.O. would have been so pleased for her to receive his award. Our Educator of the Year was Kathy Severson from Viola Gibson Elementary. Kathy's been a dedicated teacher for over 35 years and has touched many lives. Many students, families, and her colleagues sent messages on her behalf. She attended all her school years in Cedar Rapids schools, and her father was also a teacher here. She was very deserving of the award. We did also have 4 other fabulous nominated finalists for Educator of the Year. They are Patty Walsh from Kennedy, Beth Betts from Jackson, C.J. McDonald from Linn-Mar, and Jean Davidson from Viola Gibson. It was a wonderful evening, and we were proud to honor so many of our deserving educators. CREA would also like to thank all of those recognized earlier this evening. Thank you so much for all those who have been committed to our district for more than 20 years. You are a dedicated group. Thank you also to each of you serving on the school board. And after listening to that video, how do you guys have any extra time for yourselves? You're all involved in so many things. And I'm sure that at times this job may seem pretty thankless, but we appreciate your leadership as you listen to our community needs and assist us in providing high-quality public education for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lawrence Winklowski.
I, Lawrence Winklowski, 4234 Morel Road, Northeast Cedar Rapids. As part of the consent agenda, there was 2 items I wanted to comment on. One was policy 410 for co-curricular activity eligibility. The second paragraph and second sentence states, students who wish to have the privilege of participating in co-curricular activities must conduct themselves in accordance with board policies and refrain at all time from activities that are illegal, immoral, or unhealthy. The terms immoral and unhealthy are ambiguous. Webster defines immoral as conflicting with generally or traditionally held moral principles. Webster also defines unhealthy as not conducive to health, not in good health, dangerous, risky, bad, injurious, or morally contaminated. The intent of using immoral and unhealthy needs to be clearly defined so that it is not interpreted differently by a very liberal individual and a very conservative individual. Also, is it part of the district's vision to judge morality? Regarding the agreement between the school district and the Junior Cougar organization for the use of facilities and other similar contracts, when I moved to Cedar Rapids, the local schools in Illinois had a policy that playgrounds were closed to the public until after-school care was over. This was for safety. In the past, there has been an issue with the contract, with this contract, 5 seasons, daycare, and the school. Parents would bring children onto the playground, which made it difficult for daycare workers to properly watch the children they were responsible for. When this issue was brought forward, it was not properly handled, and the confidential letter was just sent to the Junior Cougars. First, why are playgrounds not off limits to the public when daycare is using the playgrounds? Second, shouldn't this contract make sure there is a supervision of siblings that use the playground? I agree with the mission of the Junior Cougars for the most part and similar organizations. However, some of their practices, the practices of these organizations contradict district policies and practices. For example, the fact that they cut players from their programs based on their child's ability and skill level. In a recent conversation with Dr. Benson, we agreed that children should have the opportunity to participate in activities independent of their skill level. These kinds of organizations indirectly represent the school district, and these organizations should be bound to many of the same policies that our sports teams and coaches follow. They should be responsible, there should be responsibilities for putting Cougars, Jayhawks, and Warriors on a uniform. All these contracts should specify that all contracts with the organization would be immediately terminated if someone used drugs, alcohol, or tobacco on school property. Our grade schools and middle schools are not direct feeders to a particular high school. Yet these programs prohibit classmates and friends from playing together based on what side of an imaginary line their parents choose to live. However, our school district has a process to allow them to attend the same school. Why should a student who attends TAF be denied to participate in an organization that uses TAF ball fields? These are public assets and should not be monopolized by private organizations. All children need to have access to these assets. Maybe the usage time should be from 6 to dark. Also, schedules of usage should be posted near the fields. These contracts do not need to be approved today. However, the above concerns need to be addressed and resolved before this and similar contracts are approved. Facility usages needs to be safe for all and fair to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ruth White.
Ruth White, 319 Eastland Drive, Southeast, Cedar Rapids. I have to say that I'm such an old person in this district that I remember when Bill Pinkney and Dave Smith started at Washington, and I taught with Dan Ryan. He hung around a lot longer than I did, but good people all. And my grandson has the privilege of having been in Jessica Mooberry's class 2 times, 4th and 5th grade. So I wanted to take a few minutes to share some data regarding the Academy for Scholastic and Personal Success, of which I am founder and executive director. You have actually 3 pieces of information in front of you. The long one is the most recent data points that are requested through our MOU with the district, and I won't take a lot of time to go over that, but you can see that it includes grade point averages, office referrals, advanced placement courses, which we encourage students to take, and then also the number of students who are returning and the number of years that they have participated in the academy. The second item is the academy student. I think perhaps over the years we have neglected to clarify just exactly how rigorous a program this is. What we do is focus on students of color. We encourage students to come into the academy at grade 9, but also encourage them to repeat through grade 11 and have some who repeat through grade 12. Encourage students to actually require that a student has a support system. If that does not include a parent, then someone else in the community who is willing to stand for that child. And then of students, we encourage and teach, actively teach social skills and classroom skills, how to listen, how to take notes, how to participate effectively in a discussion or a seminar. And while we encourage students who are what we call bubble kids to be involved in the academy, we also take students who don't have a 2.5 grade point average if they have a referral. So if you can read down, you'll see that the academy offers self-esteem building, study, test taking, listening, and additional classroom skills taught by people of color. This year we have hired 3 PhDs who will be teaching language arts, history, math, science, and what we call post-secondary seminar. They also serve as role models for the students. So we provide kind of a cocoon of positivity for students during the 6 weeks that the academy is in session. We have several field trips throughout the summer. Usually we go to the University of Iowa and to UNI, and then there is a longer trip that helps the students to see positive reflection of their own culture. Participation in that trip requires that students have achieved and participated cooperatively through the program through the 6 weeks. The bottom line, and you'll see this in the brochure, is that we encourage students to find out who they are so that they can use that knowledge as a springboard to academic achievement. If you look at the brochure, you'll see some statistics on the back, which indicates that since 1989, we've served more than 1,000 students, and the graduation rate is high, as is the matriculation rate in post-secondary pursuits. We have had, I was told by someone at the university that I should not mention the number of students who have not fallen into the system, but I think it's relevant because of the 1,000-plus academy students, there has been 1 student who has fallen afoul of the law. I think that's a pretty good record. So I wanted to make you aware that the academy is 25 years old this summer. We'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary, and by all accounts, I think that's the most significant data point. I've been around here for almost 40 years and have seen programs that focus on at-risk, minority, choose your term, students, and none of them has lasted 25 years. So I think that we have a pretty good track record. We teach students how to be students. We teach them about who they are so that they can have a greater chance for success.
Dr. White, excuse me, your time is up.
Oh, no. All right. I think I hit the high points. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next is our consent agenda. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? John?
So I'd like to, maybe I'll give you a chance, Ruth, here to talk a little bit more. I'd like to pull BA 14277.1, the agreement between Cedar Rapids Community School District and the Academy for Scholastic and Personal Success. And the reason I'm just asking about this is we've had multiple discussions about the Academy and the great things that it's doing. We've heard personal stories. I personally have gone to a number of your receptions and talked with the students and parents, so I hear that. But this is one of the first times that I recall having data put in front of me, and I've had to ask for that once I actually saw the contract with the school district. Paul, I'm looking at you too. I, as a board member, don't want this to happen where I'm getting this data right when the contract's being presented to us. I want this in advance. I'm very supportive, and I think that board members of the Academy know that. Paul, you've been a board member as well, and I'm very passionate about that. I've talked to Nancy Humbles, who couldn't be with us tonight. She's very passionate about this as well. But we do need to see the data for the investment that we're making in this program. I truly appreciate that we have this now, and I will take a look at that, and I'm supportive of this, but I don't want to see this happen that way again in the future, I guess. So that's it.
Other items for discussion?
Just with the point that Lawrence Winkowski made on the baseball, and so we have 3 baseball agreements tonight, each for their areas with high school. Does anybody know how flexible those programs are as far as allowing students to participate?
Well, I know a little bit.
Okay.
I do know that they do try to, I think, both recruit within the area, but also know that, where the school is located, what's going to work for families, those kinds of things, if that's what you're asking.
Right.
Who can be part
I mean,
of
it says
it.
like the junior Cougars is for kids who are going to go to Kennedy, and
Right.
likewise for Washington
Right,
and Jefferson.
right,
And I just
right.
wondered if they do allow other students to participate if they aren't expecting.
To my knowledge, they're open to that. I don't know
Okay.
how often it happens,
Okay.
because they are obviously trying to recruit for those particular high schools, but to my knowledge, they do, willingly take those kids if they are interested.
Okay. And then, do you know if they have issues with the playground and daycare?
That's the first I've heard of that, so I'm going to check
I'm
into
not
that as
aware
well.
of that either, and
I had
I-
not heard that before.
Okay. Because the agreement is specifically for the baseball fields.
Correct, correct.
But
One
we
of
do
those is
also
at-
allow public use of our playground, so.
Right, right. And one of those, yeah, I will look into that. I'm not exactly sure if there has been a concern. I had
Okay.
not heard that before. I talked to all these principals before we did the agreements, and they hadn't said anything, but
Okay.
we'll check into
I
that.
mean, I could see that happening in a lot, I mean,
Yeah.
the YMCA and other places use our fields for
Yeah.
soccer, so it's not like a unique situation to
Mhm.
these programs,
Right,
so.
right.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to pull it, I just had a comment, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So, John, did you want to amend this motion? Okay, so
Nope.
there's been a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. This is a roll call action.
Director Rosenthal.
Aye.
Director Anhalt.
Aye.
Director Witt.
Aye.
Director Laverty.
Aye.
Director Westerkamp.
Aye.
President Meisterling.
Aye. Next, I'm going to turn this over to Steve Graham to talk about silo financing needs.
It's my pleasure to introduce Tim Oswald before the Board of Education tonight. Tim Oswald has been a a fixture with Piper Jaffray for many years, and he's done great work for our school district as well as many school districts in the state of Iowa. So before I turn the microphone over to Tim, I just want to make a few comments about Silo. We have, at this point, an estimated $61 million of unobligated Silo resources that's measured through the end of the Silo term, which is December the 31st of 2029. Despite that predicted reserve that we do have a predicted short-term deficit situation occurring in fiscal years 15 and 16. We have a very massive, when I say we, I say Tim and I have a very massive spreadsheet on all of the expenditures and revenues related to Silo. So Tim and I have conversations about where we're at with Silo, and we could see this predicted deficit coming. So that's just a little background here. And I'm going to just turn Tim loose to talk about our options regarding a short-term borrowing instrument.
Thanks. Thank you, Steve. So you have a little write-up that I put together in your packet. Some details. You do have a short-term cash flow, short-term couple years cash flow need in the Silo or SAVE fund. I still call it the Silo fund, but related to the difference between the cash receipts and the construction expenditures. Unlike in the past when you've had larger borrowings, longer-term borrowings, this to me, as I looked at the cash flow, looks more like what I'd call a bank loan. It's a, I'm proposing that it be a 4-year loan. It could be as short as a 3-year loan, maybe in late 2 years, depending on cash needs of the district. Frankly, if you want to pay a lot of fees for a 2-year loan, you could go do a traditional bond issue. That doesn't strike me as the best use of your money. What I'm proposing is that we put together a bank loan, place it locally with one or more of the local institutions on reasonable terms, skip the ratings, skip the underwriting process, the official statements, all of the stuff that you might normally do in a larger bond transaction. And given where we sit in the fiscal year, something that we would have wrapped up yet this fiscal year, so the cash funding is available. I gave you a couple of pages of cash flows, and I just wanted to quickly highlight on them. Steve's right, we have a fairly good-sized file that both of us share back and forth and work in, and I don't touch his areas. But I enjoy that working relationship. And the picture I gave you is kind of a snapshot of the many parts that are moving, and this is the end of the fiscal year. And so what's not plainly evident as you look at the tables is the middle of the fiscal year. The deficit that we think that you're going to have is probably close to $5 million based on current estimates of timing of construction and current estimates of sales tax revenues. Could be a little higher, could be a little lower, depending on how things shake out over the next couple of years. But yet you look at the schedule and you see, well, at the end of 2015, deficit's only projected to be maybe $2 million. That's because we haven't spent all of the money we're spending, and then that deficit gets larger before it starts getting smaller again. So I illustrated that, what's called Table 1, to show you that you do have a need. And the Table 2 was to factor in what those same numbers would look like if you borrowed $9 million and covered the deficit and had a reasonable cushion against potential expenses that might come up. I'll stop there for a minute. Are there questions about numbers?
Questions from the board, Alan?
Is it 4-year term, 3%? Are we talking about, or what are we talking about for terms?
Yeah, my thinking was we'd start with a 4-year term, try and get a prepayment option after maybe the second year without a penalty. 3% is very high. In this market, that number ought to be below 2.
Thank you.
Gary?
Your table number 1 starts with 2015. What's been the history with the Silo income previous terms? Has it been fairly constant? It's based on tax income, right?
Correct, good question, and I should have mentioned that earlier. Remember, when you voted, the original, if you will, tax, it was the local option countywide. For 5 years, you shared the revenues with your neighbors. Whatever was collected stayed locally. Revenues per student at one point, I think, exceeded $1,000 per student in those years. At the end of 2012, that business deal ended. You fell into the statewide pool, where you're capped at the statewide average revenue per student, $870 in the current year. So at this point, all of the grandfathers across the state have ended. Everybody's in the same boat that you're in. You all get paid per pupil on the same time schedule, the same amounts per pupil. So I don't want to say comparing to history is irrelevant. That wouldn't be fair. Comparing to history, you need to remember that the rules changed 2 years ago. So it's very reliable since then. It's very predictable because it's a statewide tax and everybody gets the same calculation.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Okay.
Okay, so table 2, then I factor in the borrowing amount. What Steve and I have traditionally used is an assumption about revenue growth of 1% a year. So $870 this year is $890 some dollars next year, and work our way out. That's below the historic average. We're above 2 in the state. The other assumption that we make is enrollment, that enrollment won't change up or down over the duration of tax. We don't know where it's going, but whatever happens, happens, and every year we update those assumptions for actual data. So table 2 then factors in the same numbers with a $9 million debt and a 4-year payoff. So if we can shorten that up to 3 years and cut, we might be able to cut $100 and some thousand of interest cost. I think you'll want to have that flexibility, and then we'll revisit this discussion in a couple years.
Sounds good. Any other comments or questions for Tim? Okay, otherwise I'll leave it with you, Steve. Thank you, Tim.
The idea is to get Tim in front of you tonight and understand what it is that we have before us, and I think the plan will be to come before you again in June at our first June board meeting with a proposal for you to digest and hopefully take action on that at that time. So I don't want to put Tim on the spot, but I do know that the next agenda item is the approval of this contract with Piper Jaffray. Maybe, Tim, you could comment a little bit on the 0.75% fee that you have there.
So our job in this transaction would be a little bit different than we've done in the past with the district. Under federal securities laws, if we're going to go out and talk to an investor, solicit the sale of a security, we have to, first you have to be a licensed broker, which my firm and myself are, and second off, we cannot act as a financial advisor to our client, to the school district in this case, because we're acting in the role as a broker instead. So we'll be out talking to banks on behalf of the district, soliciting their proposals, coming back to you with the summary of the proposals and our recommendation written for you to approve. The 0.75 is, I think, a top end on what I think the fee probably will be. Depends on how hard it is to get the transaction, how much work we have with some of the banks. Typically, if it's just a local bank and it's a depository relationship, there will be a discount on the fee at the end. But I'd be glad to answer any questions anyone has.
Questions or comments?
So it's on the $9 million figure, so it's $67,000?
Yeah, we need to talk, Steve and I need to talk a little bit about what the right number is and make sure that that doesn't get out of whack with what your actual needs are.
Sure.
Okay. Others? So it is recommended the board approve the private placement engagement agreement from Piper Jaffray. This is a voice vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay. Again, thank you. We appreciate the information. So next I'm going to turn it over to Steve. You might want to stay up there, and Dave to talk about an update on PPEL.
The physical plant and equipment levy, needs to be renewed for FY15. Steve is here tonight. We've put together, we've done the research, we've had the legal counsel involved, and this is a information item this evening, and we'll come back to you for approval of moving forward with another election in September. I believe that's September 9th. Steve?
Thank you, Dr. Benson. Just a number of just overall comments regarding PPEL, and then also a connection between PPEL and what we do in terms of oversight, and a little more transparency perhaps that we'll talk a little bit about also tonight. So first of all, the PPEL resolution and the PPEL ballot are included in your board materials, and you're going to see, if you compared the previous ballot that we had in September of 13 to this ballot, this is about 1/3 the length. And a large part of that is because of the simplicity of removing a surtax component. So there are three essential components of this PPEL ballot. One, it's a 10-year term, which is the maximum by law. And it would begin July the 1st. That would be fiscal 16 is when this would begin and run a 10-year term. So our current PPEL revenue stream will end on the 30th of June of 2015, a little bit more than a year away. So we're looking for a 10-year term. We're looking for pure property tax, no blend of surtax. We're looking for $1.34, which is a maximum allowed by law. We currently have a 67-cent 10-year voter-approved PPEL. And then we would also ask that in the ballot that it is used for all legal purposes under the Iowa Code currently. And it is a very blanket statement. We know that our use of PPEL historically has been for the brick and mortar maintenance of our school infrastructure, and we've also used it to buy school buses. We've got about a $700,000 annual commitment for school buses that we pay out of that PPEL fund. It's a very key part of our funding equation for school buses. So the ballot is simple, and hopefully simplicity is going to be converted into support in the public eye, I think is the hope with that intent. The resolution is also there. It's very simple. It basically says what I've just said, and it has to be passed on or before the 25th of July so that we can get this to the county and we can have it recorded and set for that vote on the 9th of September. So we want to make sure that we take this one and take action on it before that date. So a little bit now about transparency. I want to talk a little bit about transparency. We've had, Dr. Benson and I have had a very good conversation about how we as a district could improve transparency in regards to what we're doing with our resources for infrastructure. And the Silo Infrastructure Oversight Committee has been with us since after we passed the Silo vote back in February the 13th of 2007. We talked about that as a commitment before the vote. We followed through that with the creation of that Silo Infrastructure Oversight Committee. Well, we've had a number of projects over time that have slowly dissipated as we have committed ourselves to the promised list of projects. We've got Jefferson and Washington High School HVAC and window wall projects that will be coming to an end. All right, so the idea of adding value to an existing committee to look at and oversee district expenditures related to infrastructure is a very sound idea. And I think that certainly I don't want to overly trump Mike Dawson, who chairs the Silo Infrastructure Oversight Committee, and be presumptuous, but I certainly intend to engage Mike with I believe is a wonderful opportunity to improve transparency and trust in the public eye. This is sort of my prop. This is a reminder to the board that in April of last year, we finished a year-long process of the facility master plan. And in here is the identification of a 10-year investment of infrastructure that we call our Operations and Maintenance Manual. The Facility Master Plan identified $220 million of operations and maintenance needs for existing infrastructure as a part of a $425 million price tag in a facility master plan. That's $22 million per year. The operation and maintenance plan is sized to what we would receive as a district if a $1.34 PPEL levy would pass. So there's a clear difference between $8.5 million roughly and $22 million per year. And you've heard this story already. This would be, we would propose to be our guiding principles behind the creation of future PPEL plans. And we would be talking to our Silo Oversight Committee about the process of Facility Master Plan, the process of how they would engage our school district in the review and oversight of our PPEL function as well as our silo function. And maybe we'll even come up with a different name and cast out the silo component to the title of Facilities Oversight Committee. So those are just some thoughts, and I'm certainly happy to answer questions if you have any.
Ann?
Yeah, just, the PPEL also has a board-approved component, right?
I'm sorry, yes.
The PPEL has the board-approved component, so we're really not just going from 67 cents to $1.34, we're really going from $1 to $1.67.
That is correct.
And so that if people look at the numbers, and I don't know if generally when we've talked about the numbers, if we talk about the entire amount or just the tax, the voter portion, but it's not actually doubling the PPEL, it's a lot of money, but the district and the community owns a lot of property, so it's important to maintain that investment. So I just wanted to make sure people realize that there's a lot, we're using what we can right now. It's not just the voter piece, it's the board piece, and we just need to grow that a little bit more.
Thank you. A couple of comments on that. The operations and maintenance plan at $8.5 million is incorporating both the board-approved PPEL as well as the voter-approved PPEL.
Okay.
So it would be the full $1.67. It would generate roughly $8.5 million annually. Now let's talk a little bit about the property tax levy rate and this issue of doubling the tax. We've heard this, doubling the tax from 67 to $1.34. We promise in fiscal 16 to hold that levy rate flat, that we have the ability to hold our property tax levy the way it is currently at $15, and I'm having a senior moment here. I believe it's $15.48. It is the same levy rate in fiscal 16 as it is currently that we've had board certified, which is the same levy rate that we have in the current fiscal year. We are positioned to be able to absorb an increase in a PPEL levy by vote and still sustain ourselves in terms of our stability of the local property tax levy rate. That I can say with confidence at this point. So this issue of doubling a levy needs to be understood in the grand scheme of the overall total tax levy rate of the school district.
Thank you.
Ann, thank you. Alan?
The thing I watch a lot of these votes come and go, and $67 per household on a $100,000 home is what we're talking about. And that was lost in the translation last time because of the doubling comment. So I think a lot of people that I talk to, they say things like you have a $200 million need in your study, and you've got this money coming in a trickle, really. And so they thought it'd be a no-brainer for people to pass the PPEL the first time. I really am struggling with, I like the idea of having that document you have there and say, that is the document, that's the guidance we're going to use, like we did in Silo, like we did on the bond in 2000. There needs to be a document like that we always refer back to. I know you've got the language the way you do, and that's okay. But it's just like when we rolled back the taxes with the Silo, that was pretty much just kind of a verbal agreement. There was never been a document shown that we're going to do that for 10 years. That was just done verbally as part of the vote. And I think we've stuck to it. So we have that trust of the community in that regard, and we just need to make sure it's clear to them that we have a document we're going to use as our guidance, our Bible, and get this thing done, and we're going to attack this thing the best we can.
Gary?
Steve, is the second document, 2932, is that the actual language, Cedar Rapids School District Physical Plant Levy ballot question? That's the actual language would be on the, so it's that one short paragraph, fairly
That's it.
clear and distinct, okay. And just going along with Alan, as you were talking about the Pebble needs, I thought I heard you say that the document that we constructed might be amended, or there might be new projects. I think that it has to be very clear when we go into this bond issue, that it's very clear, this is what the projects will look like, this is what it will be, this is our direction, and there are no hidden or there are no new agendas that are going to occur. Obviously, over 10 years, we can't predict, what possibly could happen. I mean, we could have some new needs or whatever that could occur over that period of time. But the intent is, this is the document, these are the projects, this is how the money, we intend to use it over that 10-year
Yes.
period.
I cannot underemphasize, maybe I should, no, that's not quite right.
Overemphasize.
I can't overemphasize, thank you, man. I can't overemphasize the importance of these resources just to do the basics, the very basics that we have in our school facilities, the surface parking, concrete asphalt, roofs, boilers, windows, doors, carpeting, tile, the basics. And so these resources are not sufficient to handle the true needs that we have in the long term, but they're better than what we have now, and we promise, based upon our plan that we have already communicated, to use these the very best that we can on the basics.
Just to amplify that point, Director Anholtz, we have had a board made up, and every school has had a board showing the current plan and the enhanced plan, and it's been displayed in the school all year long. We are being very transparent in what we think are the priority needs of those school environments for maintenance and operations related issues.
Okay, John?
Well, Keith was next, I think.
Actually, you're right. Keith?
I think that's a great idea to expand the oversight committee. And I'd just like to comment that I know that oversight committee has been very strong, has really followed things, and they're certainly not a pushover committee at all. They are very hardworking, and I think that's a great move.
John?
I was going to say, too, as I recall, we had Shive Hattery involved with this process, so we had, some experts in the field that are helping us prioritize these needs. And as I go to the different schools, it's clear we're not talking about, Mercedes and Ferrari type of amenities in our schools. We're talking about the basics, like you said. I mean, just making sure the roofs don't leak, making sure that kids don't trip in the sidewalks going to and from school. And again, I think that whole conversation about the buckets, where our money come from, the state-supported money, other property tax monies and things, what they can be spent on is important in this too, because the PPEL, as you mentioned, Steve, is very specific towards these infrastructure needs and the needs of our transportation with our school buses. So I think, as we move forward, and I know this is part of the discussion, that needs to be very clear to the public as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just one other comment, even though it's 67 cents per $1,000, that doesn't, from what I understand, doesn't actually translate directly because of the portion of the, right? Isn't there just a portion of the assessed value is actually taxable? I mean, there's like the rollback. There's like a few calculations that have to go on there before you you actually know how much the impact is. So at some point along the way, I expect we would publish what the impact would be for somebody with a $100,000 house or
When you-
150,
When you
right?
roll all those things in that you've just said.
Right.
It's a $5.2 billion base. And the $5.2 billion base is the taxable base that you measure to generate resources from. So a 67-cent levy on a
Right.
$5.2 billion base is going to generate about $3.5 million.
Right, but that's the assessed value.
That's
It'd be
the
quite a
taxable.
bit higher than that.
Yes, it would
So
be.
that's, I just wanted to point out that there's a difference between the assessed
Taxable
value
value
and the
and assessed
taxable value, that's all.
Two additional comments. One, I too think it is a great move towards better transparency to have a citizens committee. We are talking about silo funds that will go out to 2029 and 10 more years of a PEPL. Having a facilities oversight committee, and I agree, I've seen them stand up and be very strong during my tenure. So I think that's something that our community should feel good that we're moving towards. And my final comment is, this issue of what the tax is versus, it's in my opinion misleading to scare people, because they know that school tax is the largest portion of their property tax, and using loaded words does not communicate the true value of the ask. The true value of the ask is just a little over 4%. Even if we imposed 100% of it, which we're in a position that we don't think we'll end up having to do that. Okay? So it is imperative that we talk in truthful terms and not scare our public about what this tax ask is all about. It's about maintaining older facilities in the urban core school district in this county that has been in existence for 155 years. It is a 4% tax increase ask, even if we, you as a board imposed 100% of it. And we are going to take additional steps to provide transparency and oversight so that the community can be better assured those dollars are being spent in accordance with the plan. We think all of those are important points for the community.
I couldn't agree more with all the comments that have made at the table, and I want to just add a couple of my own. When you increase the responsibility of the Oversight Committee, I think that they're empowered to make those distinctions between the silo monies and the PEPL monies and keep everyone's feet to the fire regarding the master plan so that we're always on task and making the right decisions moving forward. I do have a question. So September 9th, what was the date of our last PEPL election?
I believe it was the second Tuesday of September 13,
Right.
whatever date that would fall
And
on.
if I recall correctly, I think the individual taxes went out 3 weeks late, so it turned out to be a couple of days, or Friday before that, Tuesday. So I think it's just really imperative that we communicate effectively and openly and honestly about that, so that when people open their bills and they hear doubling the tax, first of all, great distinction, Ann, that we're not doubling the tax, but just to be acutely aware of the timing of our tax bills going out and encourage our auditor to get them out on time. So, thanks. Good discussion, good information. Look forward to a successful campaign.
We'll be back with an action item at the next board meeting.
Thank you. Okay, next is Lori Bruzak to talk about innovative learning environment.
Thank you. Tonight, we want to thank the Board of Education for supporting innovative learning environments like Mrs. Castelluccio iPad project that was started 2 years ago. Last August, in our technology plan, we had earmarked funding for innovative and learning, dynamic learning environments, and created a proposal-based process where staff could request additional technology resources to support learning objectives in their classroom. Tonight, we're going to highlight several of the projects awarded in the first round of the proposals. There were 5 awarded in the first round and 6 additional awarded in the second round this year. So we have a video highlighting the first round.
We bought 40 tablets, Windows 8 Surface Pro 2s is what these are. We've got the tablets with the stylus and keyboards, as well as the storing card, the charging station. I have some of my students using them just about every day. And my students are, my U.S. history students use them a lot for internet research. Right now they are working on a project where we're in review season for the AP exam, and they're putting together all of these different terms that we've used throughout the year and making connections between the terms and kind of this massive concept map word web thing that they're doing. My geography students are really benefiting from the tablets by using mapping resources that are just kind of all over the internet. I really saw the potential for technology in the classroom. Last year I was working with the district on Canvas and piloting Canvas and saw a lot of potential for tech in the classroom.
See where you've got little gaps at the bottom, grab your paint bucket tool, make sure it's white, and just go in and fill those in on each layer. This is design and art. It's a digital class, so all of the projects that they do are on the computer and done with Illustrator or Photoshop. I applied for it because I really wanted to have the Wacom drawing tablets because that's the industry standard, that's what professionals use, and I thought that would is something that the students should have access to also. And part of the collaborative design studio, which was the title for my grant, was that I wanted to create an environment where students were working in a way that professionals work. So in the working world as artists, you get an assignment from one person, you might have to collaborate with another person, and so the project that they're doing right now is an animation. The drawing class that I have drew the monsters, toy monsters is what we're going for, and then we sent them over to the ceramics class to create them, to produce them, and then this class is working on animating those drawings, and my graphic design class is working on packaging for the actual monsters.
With animations, we're just taking someone else's monster and changing it to move and do stuff. I'm just having hearts come up, and then I'm gonna, he's seeing someone he likes.
The new thing with this class this year is the drawing tablets and the laptops. Before we were in a lab with desktop computers, and when they drew, they had to draw with the mouse. What it does for them is it lets them draw in a more natural manner, and then they can focus their efforts on their creative output.
On a normal computer, if you just use paint, you have to use the mouse to draw and everything. It's really not that easy, but with the pen and pad thing, you can just actually draw and you're drawing on a piece of paper. They're really nice and easy to use.
Now once you fill this in, it's not going to feel so jumpy. They have jumped right in feet first, and they love the drawing tablets. All of my classes have been using them. They like that they can draw like they would on a piece of paper. It's more natural for them.
This is our drawing pad, and I really like this because you can be free on it, you get to try new stuff, and it makes it more fun. He's moving in and out of the page and shrinking and getting bigger.
They are really focused and engaged, and I think that the drawing tablets make them more engaged because they're working so intently on their projects, and they're really focused on what their output is.
You have to be really careful with it, so it makes me more focused because it has a lot of rules to go along with it, so that's why I am so into my work, because I want everything perfect.
We were awarded through the Innovation Grant a seismometer, a computer, and a large screen television. Our seismometer is located in the corner of the classroom, and that seismometer will register earthquakes throughout the world, and students are able to come and take a look at the primary and secondary and surface waves as they register in real time.
I look at it a lot just to see if there's any recent earthquakes, but a lot of the students like me, we look at it to identify the different waves instead of looking into a textbook. Our generation is very electronic, and we like to look at things on screens rather than in books because it's quite boring looking at textbooks all day.
Prior to this, they would just get what they got from a textbook and, not get real excited. But now it's something that students show up to class looking for.
Just like every other teenager in this building, my students thrive on using technology, and they are much more motivated to be engaged in their learning to have that technical piece rather than paper and pencil. Best thing has been the accessibility for my students. It provides opportunities for my students who are visually impaired to magnify items or to bring them closer. It's been very helpful with my students who need to have varied positionings, especially after surgery recoveries. We are able to accommodate that with the iPads much easier than we could with a PC. They've been fantastic to be able to show a visual image to parents, because a lot of the progress my students make can't necessarily be described in words. It's really a visual experience. The video feature a lot to communicate with therapists. I can film a student with a gait problem that I need to problem solve, zip it over to my physical therapist, and get a result a lot faster than waiting for her next visit.
We also have with us tonight Angie Fogel. She is a special education teacher at Kennedy and is a grant recipient this year, and she's going to share how the resources are impacting her classroom.
First, I want to thank the district and the committee for approving our grant. We received 17 iPads, that's one per student in my behavior-focused program, and a charging station. The kids have really embraced it this year. These are students who are very at risk. They are, most of them are from low socioeconomic backgrounds and historically have very low school engagement and achievement in school. So the three goals that we had with the grant were engagement, achievement, and employment. We're trying to get them more engaged, wanting to come to school, wanting to participate in school, increase their achievement while they're in school, as well as give them some employability skills using current technology. The data that we collected for the grant, as of about a month ago, and still currently, the kids that are using the iPads in the classroom are passing 100% of those classes, which is quite an increase for those kids. Their engagement in class has gone from 68% to 89% in those classes where we're using the iPads. Students have expressed to me that they feel more in control of their learning and that they're more actively involved in learning in the classroom. And they're gaining 21st century employment skills using current technology that includes systems of communication. We're using discussion boards. They're doing a lot of peer feedback. We're doing online assessment. We use Canvas almost daily for an online delivery of their coursework. And hopefully this is going to get them past Twitter, Facebook, and Candy Crush so that they have some skills that they can take with them when they leave high school into the workforce. My kids are not as brave as young Alex, who joined us, but I did require them to use their iPads to interview each other about what they liked about the iPad, and I think Justin's going to help me get those going.
What do you think about the iPods? I think they're pretty cool. What do you use yours for? Vocabulary mostly, and getting on Canvas. What is the best part about using an iPod for your schoolwork? Because it organizes my schoolwork pretty well. Do you think that the whole school should have them? Eventually, yeah. What are you gonna do when that happens? Use them for school advantages, I don't know.
What do you like about the iPads?
I like that they're fast and easy to use.
Do you think that they would be good in other schools?
Yes, I do. I think many students would enjoy to use an iPad over a computer or a textbook.
Do you think it's easy to get work done on these?
Yes, I do.
Do you think that they are safe to use as in internet-wise?
Yes, they're pretty safe.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like them?
7.5. What's your favorite trait about these iPads?
That I can just take them to my desk and do work there.
Alright, do you feel as though these should be used in other schools, and if so, why?
Yeah, because it's an easier way to learn than like paperwork or other stuff, and they can just sit on an iPad, and electronics keep youngins happy.
Alright, do you feel as though these are a good advantage or disadvantage to your learning?
I feel like they're an advantage because I'm good with electronics and they're easy for me to use.
Alright, thank you.
So just an example, by the way, that took many, many takes. Those last two, they spent like an entire hour trying to videotape that because they were laughing so hard. So I thought they did a pretty good job at the end. So, but just thank you for that, and we've really seen some awesome things happening in the classroom with our kids, so.
Thank you, Angie.
Uh-huh.
That was great.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Did they videotape using the iPad? Did they record it using the iPads or something else?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Okay,
they did. And
that's fine.
those were totally their questions and their interviews. And yeah, I just basically said, you know, if you don't want to come with me, here's what you have to do. So they videotaped those. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So as I said, this is a proposal process in which staff can submit a proposal, and we've had 2 rounds of proposals for this school year. We awarded the first round in November and the second round the beginning of March. We are in the process of evaluating proposals to be awarded for the start of the school year. The proposal process, once staff submit the proposal, then we have a committee of community members, instructors, and students that review and prioritize the proposals for funding. And then we look at the priorities from the committee and use the available funding to fund as many as we can.
Terrific. Questions or comments? Yes, Alan?
I like this particularly because we went to the NSBA conference a couple years ago, and these schools have tried this one-to-one thing where they just give the iPads to every kid in the door, and they don't really have any sort of plan behind it, and they don't have any champions. So I really like the idea. This is very focused, and those who really want it get it, and it's just not a one-size-fits-all. So I really appreciate this sort of plan, so thank you.
John?
The chance to serve on the committee, so it's a great process, and I think Lori and Trace, everybody's learned over the course of a couple of these now, but you're seeing now people that have sent us proposals that have gone back and gotten feedback from your staff and from the committee, and now are coming back with some revisions and learning what really has worked in some of these classrooms and maybe what wasn't working. And so we're getting some really top-notch proposals now. So I'm excited to go through this 3rd round with the committee.
We are too. We are very excited about the variety of the projects that have come in, and look forward to what's coming this next round.
Great. Terrific work. Thank you. Okay, Marcia. Marcia's going to talk about our 2014 district-level climate survey results and analysis report.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here to present this information to you. And actually, we're going to be a bit of a tag team tonight. Some of my friends in the front row will be jumping in with some parts of this. But for the background and the beginning, I'm going to do this myself, I think. Maybe I'm not. I'm not? You're going to? Guess he's going to. All right. Well, in February is when we launched the district's 2nd annual school climate survey to hear how our parents, staff, and students feel about issues that range from academic preparation, student support, and school leadership to parent engagement, safety and behavior, and school operations. We want to thank everyone who took the time to respond. And as you know, our surveys, which are administered through our partnership with K-12 Insight, are part of our commitment to ensuring a quality education for all students by engaging in ongoing and effective communication with all of our stakeholders. Next slide, please. A total of 5,386 people completed the survey, including 2,019 parents, 947 certified staff members, 455 classified staff, and 2,415 9 through 12 students. Now, the overall response rate was about average for this type of survey, but I'm very pleased to note that the parent response rate was up over the first year of the survey, and that was really nice for us to see. Next slide. No. Yeah, next one. One more. There we go. The overall perception of educational quality in our district was very impressive. The majority of our certified staff, 82%, classified staff at 83%, parents 82%, and students 80% rated their schools as either outstanding or good. For staff and parents, this is similar to our 2013 results. The student results were up from a 74% last year. So now, as we take a look at various areas of the district-level survey from 2014, members of the cabinet will pass the microphone between them to present the data that reflects their areas of focus. And Mary Ellen, you are first.
Great. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. We're going to engage in a series of slides that look at some of our successes and then some of the challenges from the survey. If you look at this slide, this is about the academic preparation of our students, and it's quite impressive as you look at it. Students, parents, and certified staff all agree that we have over 90% in this area for academic successes, and that is what we are here for in school, so I think that's very impressive. Next slide. As you look at this slide then, here's the challenges that go along with academic preparation. First of all, the first item is about relevance, and one of the things that we have been focusing on through the Iowa Core is rigor and relevance. Those are the 2 R's of the Iowa Core. And so we'll continue to work on that, and I happened to be at one of the high schools last year when they were looking at the climate surveys, and they were talking about how can we make the learning more relevant for the children in our classrooms. I think we saw some pretty good examples of what we could do this evening as we watched the technology pieces. The second item is about homework, and homework has long been a hot topic, and we just recently spoke about our policy on homework, and our goal was to make it purposeful and connected to the learning that takes place in the classroom. We'll continue looking at this item as we look at effective grading practices and standards-based grading. And the last one then is certified staff, and while this is on the challenges slide, I'd say it's pretty good that over 84% agree that students are getting what they need to know in the next grade level.
The next slide is about student support, and this really looks at kind of, all 3 of these are both from students, parents, and certified staff, overwhelmingly positive about the support, or they have someone to talk to about a school problem. So this is very positive news. I think that it shows that kids, and again, this is our 9th through 12th graders, are even finding people that they can go to when there is a school problem. The next slide, though, would be some of those challenges that we have with student supports. And the first one there is looking at personal problems. Again, this would be our high school students, 9 through 12. And just 58% felt that they had a staff member that they could go to. This has been something that I think we've talked about a lot, is how can we support our kids that maybe have a personal problem and they need to be able to connect with somebody. So this is good information as we look at what we need to do further with some of our high school kids. And then as far as expected to go to school, I thought it was interesting that just 65% felt that, or actually 75% felt that that was important. I think that again, when we think about, we had a greater turnout of our parents, which is good, but there may have been maybe some misunderstanding with some of these questions. And then we were very pleased to see that positively we're talking about our kids in public areas or in parts of our building. Even as I've sat in PLCs, we're talking about the positives that we can provide and some of the supports that we can provide in a very positive way.
This slide looks at parent involvement and engagement, and clearly we are doing a good job in the buildings of making parents feel welcome in those buildings. But some of the challenges then to go along with parent involvement and engagement in the next slide point to the students' perception that the parents do help at school with activities and events at about 60%. As far as parents being informed, we're hoping that as teachers and parents become more skilled with the Canvas that you've been hearing about tonight, that communication improves and parents are feeling like they've got more access and more ways to engage with their students' learning. Next slide on safety and behavior. Again, buildings are doing a very good job of letting both our students, parents, and staff know about the procedures that need to occur in the building to keep everybody safe. But a challenge is, again, looking at that the bullying behaviors. Again, this is somewhat troubling in light of the extensive work that has been done in the area of bullying and harassment in the buildings through our trainings and our investigations. So, you know, you could speculate that what we need to do is make those efforts a little bit more visible so people are aware of those efforts that are taking place. And we're also in the process of looking at some research-based climate programming with proven effectiveness at the high school level that we can implement, you know, in our high schools to keep the work that's been done at the elementaries and middle schools going into those upper grades.
I'm going to talk a little bit about school and building operations. Successes, 95% of our students indicate they have access to computers and internet at school. This is a very strong indicator, really demonstrates how Lori and her team have been working to implement our technology plan. And then 93% feel their child's school is clean. In terms of, yeah, there we go, 86%, no, it's, okay, yeah. Instructional materials are in good condition. Again, you can see most of the staff feel that's a strong point, as well as classified staff feeling comfortable with the materials and that they need to get their work done as well.
Thank you, Trace. The first slide here is a bit disappointing, is the student's view of the quality of food served in a school. You'll see that the parents think a little more highly of the food quality than the students do, which may not come as a surprise just intrinsically. But I really asked Susie about this one, and in 2012-13, the USDA meal pattern guidelines started. They were much stricter with limits on calories and sodium, and these caused our size of our portion size to be reduced to fit within the confines of calories and sodium. So we're encouraging kids to eat fresh fruits and vegetables to help fill them up and so they don't feel hungry shortly after they've eaten. But this has been sort of a pushback as a result of these new standards. And nationally, in 12-13, there was a decline in participation of about nearly 5%. And in 13-14, a decline of about 1.5% in participation. And we have seen similar declines in participation here locally. So parents are a little more confident about the quality of the food that their children are eating, again, with the students not feeling quite the same about that. And we will still continue to strive to improve participation. The bottom, I guess the next slide.
Sorry, can I ask a question along the way? So just noticing the questions are phrased differently, though. The first one was high quality food and the other one was healthy food or nutritional food.
The questions really weren't different. These were what came out as the challenged areas of the questions that were asked, that rated the highest as the challenges. So earlier when you heard, maybe it was Mary Ellen, one of hers, where she said, this came up as one of the highest negatives in this category, but it was still overwhelmingly positive. That's how they fell into those categories.
So they had
gave
the
us
same
back those.
questions? The students were asked about high quality and healthy?
I believe so. I believe that
Okay.
was that. And again, just another reminder that it was just the high school students that participated.
So they might have said they were healthy, but they wasn't what they liked, maybe?
Okay.
All right.
Again, they're teenagers. So.
Thanks.
The school building operations challenges, we've got, I think, support in both fronts between certified and classified staff. Air quality is a perennial a concern that we have, but less so today than perhaps it was a number of years ago. And we continue to improve on air quality through the implementation of our new HVAC projects. We have Hiawatha Elementary School that will receive a new HVAC system. So we're working on it to make that better. And we also certainly are looking at preventive maintenance, doing a better job of the HVAC systems, replacing filters and using microbial filters in our HVAC systems to improve air quality. So that I guess those are my comments there.
Next one's Mary Ellen's again.
Okay, the next slides, we're going to be talking about the leadership in the buildings, and this would probably apply to the administrators, principals, associate principals. And if you look at those positives, all are between 80 and 90%. It looks as though there's positive communication, positive decision-making going on within the buildings in relation to the administration. And as we look at the next slide, then the challenges in that area are, if we look at the certified staff, is getting useful feedback about my instructional practices. And again, that has really been a focus of ours, as all of our administrators have, over the past 3 to 5 years, gone through training to do walkthroughs and quick visits in classrooms and provide feedback. The other thing I would mention is that I think as we begin to grow our teacher leadership, and we have our instructional design strategists going through classrooms, this question hopefully won't just be about administration, it'll be about our teacher leaders as well. Next one. And as you look at this, there's a little bit different format to this slide. And basically, it's asking about the administration. Are they accessible? Did they listen to you? Did they respond to your concerns? And did they resolve your concerns? And for the most part, again, very positive, between 80 and 90%. And except for the one about resolving your concerns. And as we know, someone doesn't always resolve your concerns, but they are being listened to.
And then we're going to move into staff relations and support. And this looks really very positive. 94% of our staff say that they are working in collaborative arrangements, and I think that is the work of the PLCs that we've been doing for many, many years now, which is very positive. And I think the second one, of 95% of our staff enjoy working in their school or department. I think that's also very, very positive as we think about some of the things that we're doing. As far as some challenges, this particular slide looked at professional development, and again, professional development looks different for different levels, but this would be how it would help meet the needs of my students, so it's really looking with those teachers. 70% said it was positive, but I do think we should look at what kinds of things are happening. Our current calendar allows some of those to be district professional development, where we have a district-led focus either on curriculum or PLC district work. The second focus would be on some building initiatives that are going on, and we need to probably dig a little bit deeper into the data as to what is some of the concerns. And then the last one is really, I believe work is distributed fairly, and 72% of our staff said they did, as well as 10% said they were not sure. So, it may be a challenge, but I think it also says that our staff is feeling that we're doing the best we can with the people that we have.
District operations. Successes, availability of technology resources, as indicated by parents, 80% are saying that there's strong availability. With our 2-to-1 ratio for student to computer next year starting in middle school, we should, I would anticipate we see that continuing to rise. 84% see our staff as high quality. Again, a nice strong indicator there. Challenges, parents, 33% didn't have a response for how the central office supports schools. That may be a good thing, depending on how they think about that. 46%, however, said that, or did say that it was, the support was there. And then for certified staff, 55% said that central office was helpful. And so we'll continue to work on these areas. As mentioned earlier in the meeting, transparency is one of our strong focuses, becoming more transparent and being more visible in our schools and community and being out in those areas. So.
This slide speaks to some of those programs that are specialized for specific students, as well as some of our arts and academic extracurricular activities and things like that. As you can see, very strong once again. The strengths in here include music, art, PACT, PE, and AP courses. And one of the challenges that I would see here is that the career tech ed, and that's an area that we want to continue to focus on with our work with Project Lead the Way, with our work with STEM, and our availability of the courses at the high school. And one of the things that we're currently doing is we're going to be expanding that facilitator position in the career tech ed as part of the teacher leadership. So we hope to move forward with that very quickly.
Just last week, counselors completed year 2 of their 3-year endeavor with the National Center for Transforming School Counseling. And all of these things actually were identified by counselors as areas for improvement before the survey was even given. So counselors have put some strategies in place to have targeted conversations with students specifically about these 4 things. To improve that knowledge, that college-going mindset, and to give them the information they need to make some of those choices. And the next slide takes a look at those choices.
Go ahead, Alan.
Just bounce back there. The disagree, where's it at? Can you help me identify real quick? I need more. Okay. I'm just reading the yellow up there. Paul, would you know what would make a student say they disagree with that statement? You know, you think that, from what I know, the counselors, they work well with the students, they give them what they need.
With any of those statements?
Yeah, it just seems odd that you'd have that large of a number of people saying they disagree.
Right. Well, I think part of that could be, and again, this is speculation, but it's not just counselors who are having these conversations with kids. So we've got IJAG, the Iowa Jobs for American Graduates teachers. We've got Gear Up cohort that is just graduating this year, who are also having those conversations with kids. So when the student sees on the survey, my guidance counselor is having this conversation with me, they may not be, but somebody else in the building is.
Yeah, so it's not specific enough to what? Okay.
Correct. And the next slide just talks about what are those choices that students indicate ahead of time as in terms of their plans for after high school. And based on those, the strategies that the counselors are implementing, our hope is that those conversations move more of those kids who are those bottom 3 tiers up to having a plan. And we're really wanting to highlight some of the trades and certificate programs available to students so that that becomes a viable option for them.
This year, based on the feedback from last year, we developed a survey that was specific for classified staff. Last year, everyone was lumped into one for staff. And a lot of the questions just clearly did not apply to those of us that are on the classified side when they referred to academics and classroom work and things that were related to certified staff. So we were really pleased to see this feedback come back, that 98% of our classified staff are satisfied, strongly agree with this, that they're satisfied with the work they do. 97% combined with the interesting work duties, motivated, 95%. And then 72% see professional growth, long-term career opportunities, useful feedback, 80%. It was a great opportunity for classified staff to have their voices heard and pulled out and identified a little bit that way. And the next slide, sadly, school board meetings are not well attended by parents, and I'm sad to point that out to you. But you may have already guessed that. But the really exciting part about this parent attendance part is that, 77% are attending at least 3 or 4 times, 5 times or more. 77% are attending school events, 46% school-sponsored sporting events, and art, music, and theater presentations, 57% of those that responded. And one of the other things I wanted to point out just very quickly earlier when it talked about parent involvement in the schools, that was a comment made by students, and again, only the high school students were rating whether their parents were volunteering in their schools. If that gives you any hint. At the high school level, that number is going to be much less than it would be if we had the elementary students mentioning whether their parents were there. Steve, you have the next one.
Well, the first one is the school buses run on time most school days, and really, I think overall fairly positive. I think a part of the difference between 81 and 100% would be weather. Certainly, weather plays a part. Student issues on whether or not our kids are getting out there on time and not delaying our routes as our routes are moving from point A to point B. The second one, I feel safe. I think that Denny does a really nice job of group stops where we have multiple children waiting all together as sort of a group as opposed to the singular pickups. We do have some of those as well, but I think kids feel safer when they're in groups. And the third one is feeling safe when I'm on that school bus, riding that school bus. Again, pretty positive, less so with the parents than with the students. And just want to remind the board that every year at our transportation in-service, our transportation staff, I know Paul Hayes is involved with student training for our bus drivers to help them to become more sensitive and to be watchful over our kids.
So this is a compilation of some of the highlights that we touched on, but generally, the survey was available throughout the month of February, and then the report we received back had the top successes of each area and the top challenges, the things that were lower rated. But across the board, most everything still had an awful lot of very high ratings from the people who participated in our survey, and we're very pleased with that. Any of us would be happy to take any comments or questions that we're able to answer if you have any.
Comments or questions?
What's the feedback to the community other than this on people that participated? I mean, if you do a survey, you want to see the overall feedback typically.
I'm not quite, what?
In other words,
What are we looking for?
I participate in the survey as a student or as a parent. What's my opportunity to see?
To see the feedback. Oh, I understand.
See the feedback.
Each of
other than-
the building administrators are receiving their building-specific ones to use it at the building levels. This report will be part of an article that'll go up on the homepage this week now that we've presented it to you. So the community will have the opportunity to see this report themselves.
What about the students at the
Mary
high
Ellen, or
schools and
maybe
so
you
on
can
to-
respond. I don't know how the high school principals may choose to use that.
I think that'd be important for them to see that, see how other students are feeling and whether it's really reflective. You know, you can do a survey like,
We made them all take it, see, so you want to, I'm sure that they're using that for their school improvement planning, but I'm sure that's something Mary Ellen can discuss with them in a little more detail.
Maybe it's in the school newspaper or newsletters.
That's a great idea.
Are you having trouble with your mic?
No, I got it.
Okay.
any
Keith,
feedback?
like I mentioned earlier, I have seen the staff use it and go through that information, and if you were part of the school improvement planning process for any of the buildings, they would be using it. I'm not sure how it's shared with kids, and I will find that out and get back to the board.
Okay, good comment. John?
There was the one concern in there about bullying, that they had seen bullying going on, which does still concern me, and I know it's a statewide and national issue, and we just, in the consent agenda, had the policy about good conduct, and Larry Winkowski brought up good conduct issues and what is it. And even though we have a bullying policy, we may want to go back and look at some of these other consequences related to student eligibility and co-curricular activities tied into this. There needs to be some more consequences, I think, that students directly see related to bullying, and not being able to participate, some sort of dangling carrot over there that they need to be good kids and treat each other as they want to be treated. We have great programs, we've implemented lots of things, we've seen it at the elementary level, but still in the back of my mind, there needs to be a little bit more there, and maybe that's the place.
Certainly, we know when kids are more connected to school that they have greater successes in that area. The thing that I noticed about that question, and I would like us to word that different in the future, because it says, I have not seen anyone being threatened or bullied in my school. And so it's exactly the opposite of the way the other questions are asked. So I don't know if we're getting exactly the results we want. That's the only one that's like that, I think, on the whole survey. So I think, and when you look at it, it really is the inverse. We would be looking for the far end of the bar rather than the closer side, so.
we'll take a look at that again. We always look at the draft and review it as a cabinet before we finalize it.
Other comments or questions? Just because it helps me, instead of telling me that 900 and some people responded, I'd like to see the percentage overall. So that was 50% of...
Of all the parents in the district. I can word it that way when we put it on the web.
Okay, and then, again, for my edification, I always like to see, if you could just give me last year's and this year's, so that I can make some comparisons and digest that material a little
Some
bit
of
better.
And that makes perfect sense. Some of the reason we didn't was some of the questions were changed this year. Last year was our first time at it, and the administrative leadership team felt that a lot of those questions didn't get at some of the academic areas they wanted, so we didn't have apples to apples to really use in many areas of this. Also, the staff, as I explained, was split up this year, so again, we didn't have, next year we would definitely have certified to certified and classified to classified, but compared to our first year, we didn't really have the apples to apples for it in many areas.
Okay, I'll look forward to that in subsequent years.
One other thing I'd like to see is opportunity for people to make a suggestion on change. You know, if this isn't working, what can we do to do a better job in the area after they get the results?
Mm-hmm.
For instance, like the bullying, what's happening?
It's a great opportunity to take what we've got from this and use it on the Engaged CR site for
Correct.
that kind of
Something like
conversation.
that.
And that's what we're looking towards doing. There'll be
Okay,
food nutrition, for example, will be a topic coming up fairly soon on there.
change the law.
Change the law, that would be one approach. But any of those areas, I'm certain we'll probably do something with bullying and harassment again based on this. And that would be the natural extension of the surveying into the community conversation site.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Carla, you're up. Let's talk about hours versus days for 2014-15 school year.
Good evening, and I will be brief. So talk a little bit about, just give you a little information about hours, instructional hours versus instructional days. As a school district, we're required to report to the Department of Ed either how much instructional time we have. In the past, the only option for reporting that was instructional days. We always reported 180 instructional days. This year, as a result of House File 2170, we have the option to report in instructional hours. So we need to have 1,080 instructional hours in a year if we choose to report that way.
This year being?
For 14-15, yes, for 14-15. We have to decide and certify that on our spring beds, which is data we report to the Department of Ed in the middle of June, about June 18th. If we choose to report in instructional hours, that gives us some flexibility that we don't have with days. There are no minimum and maximum hours that you need to have in a day. So for example, if we lose instructional time due to weather, we could add time at the end of a day or the beginning of a day to make up that lost time. So it does give us a little bit of flexibility. It also allows us to stay a little bit more closely to the published calendar, which I think is advantageous for our students and our families, so they can make plans accordingly. So there will be a public hearing brought back here on June 9th, which I think is the date of the first board meeting in June. Questions?
We will be recommending hours for next year. The calendar has already been submitted and set. We believe the schools will be compliant within the hours structure. And because we have hours, we don't get into certain elements that you would in terms of days. There was a staff member who brought to the attention of a board member the 2 weeks in a row in which there might be an early out and you wouldn't meet a requirement, but that requirement is only for days. So, hours, by certifying hours, I think we have the most flexibility. And I want to make it clear, certifying hours would allow us not to be in the situation that we're in this year by going and using our 2 days that we have built into the calendar and then having 4 additional days due to inclement weather. we would have another option in the spring, and that option would be to extend the school day after spring break to make up some time. So I am supportive of ours. I have administrated school calendars in 2 other states that were based on ours. I think this is a progressive move by Iowa to get away from the fixed day calendar, and it will allow us a lot more flexibility. We're bringing this as an information item tonight because we have to do the hearing in order to get it on the spring beds and have a decision by the board. So that's the background.
Okay. Comments or questions? Okay, yes.
So then, when there's a public hearing, is that the same day that we vote then? Yes. Okay, just to confirm, thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. Policy manual, Laurel?
Thank you. Tonight, we're bringing forward an eclectic version of our policy manual with different subsections represented. Policy 501, we have some in the 600s, 700s, and 800s. We're here to answer any questions that you may have. Yes.
Yeah, I just, there was some, I wasn't sure on some formatting, like on 501.1.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that.
Seems like the new words are italics, except this one has underlined, so I just was a little confused.
I'm not sure how, I tried several times to get that to not show as marked. It depends on the view, and I tried several times to make sure that didn't happen, but apparently it didn't work when I sent it over to Adobe. It took back to the showing the markups, so that's why you see that in that particular version. I don't know why that happened, because we don't normally operate that way, so that's why it looks different than the rest of them.
But I'm thinking that all the stuff that's underlined is already in the policy.
Let me look at that real quick.
And the italics is something new. But I didn't pull up the old policy to compare.
That's correct. I'm not sure why the wording is, or the text is underlined, but what you see in italics is what the only change that we're adding, and that is the genetic information. That's the only change to the regulation and the policy.
Okay, thank you.
And that's based on advice from legal counsel that we recently received.
Thanks.
Other questions or comments? Again, we always appreciate the work that this committee does. I know that there are many in the committee, and they take this responsibility very seriously. So thanks for keeping us up to date and reviewing these policies on a regular basis. Exempt session following this meeting? Do you have any comments? Okay.
Nope.
Exempt is not subject to the open meetings law. Next is closed session. So it's recommended that we meet in a closed session to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose performance is being considered. Can someone please make that motion?
So moved.
And there's a second?
Second.
This is a roll call action.
Director Westerkamp.
Aye.
Director Laverty.
Aye.
Director Witt.
Aye.
Director Rosenthal.
Aye.
President Meisterling.
Aye. Thank you. Next, I'll turn it over to Jill.
Hi, thank you. I have presenting for you tonight the 2014-15 Terms and Conditions of Employment for the Cedar Rapids Education Association contract, along with the resolution to issue teaching contracts as appropriate with that agreement. I do want to thank the Cedar Rapids Education Association and all of the members of the bargaining team for a very successful bargaining year. The details of the settlement are included in your board materials, and that has been ratified by the association. We do ask for your approval of these conditions tonight.
Questions or comments?
Good work. Sorry, good work.
Thank you.
Yes, very good work. Thank you very much. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the 2014-2015 Terms and Conditions of Employment for the Cedar Rapids Education Association. This is a roll call action.
Director Laverty.
Aye.
Director Witt.
Aye.
Director Rosenthal.
Aye.
Director Westerkamp.
Aye.
President Meisterling.
Aye. Thank you. Jill, did you want to comment on the issuance of teaching contracts?
Just asking you to approve those so that we can issue those.
Okay. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the recommended resolution and authorization to issue contracts to teachers for a period of 1 year beginning July 1st, 2014. This is a roll call action.
Director Witt.
Aye.
Director Rosenthal.
Aye.
Director Westerkamp.
Aye.
Director Laverty.
Aye.
President Meisterling.
Aye. Because we have a lot of business yet to conduct this evening, I'm going to go ahead and put the retirement recognitions on our next board meeting. If anyone objects, let me know, okay? Take home your calendars, and thank you for a great meeting tonight. We stand adjourned.